I was ready for change. I felt ready for change. I wanted to change a lifestyle. I was really getting exhausted by the hustle and the grind. I think I needed to kind of detox from the way that I had been thinking about dance because I had kind of fallen out of love with it, really. It had been nagging at me, and I was just really tired of living with the fact that I hadn't faced this change yet. And I needed to just take like the first step.
So, I want to start with your dance background. So, your training, your professional experience, what did that look like?
So I grew up in Florida. I trained at a studio that was pretty holistic. It was not a competition studio. Our training had a foundation in ballet, and then we took, once a week classes in other things like tap and jazz and modern. And then in the summer, I would go to summer ballet intensives with American Ballet Theater. So it was all about ballet for me, but I got a lot of introduction to other styles as well. That was my training. And then I graduated and I went to school and I was like studying other stuff, but I still was wanting to like major in dance or minor in dance. So I was still taking dance. My first professional job was Tokyo Disney. So that was my first like big contract. I had done some professional gigs here and there, but that was when I was 20. And so I took a year off of college and I went and did that and came back. Then I finished school, finished college, and right after I graduated college, I got my first offer for a cruise ship, and that just kind of ushered me into like the cruise ship world. And yeah, I think for the first, decade of my adult life, I was really just in that world, auditioning, working for the theme parks. I got my equity card through the theme parks. So then I went up to New York and I did the audition circuit up there. Yeah, I mean, it was also at the time I entered into the job market during the Great Recession. So entertainment was still happening, but it's not like there were like a ton of office jobs that I could have plucked off of a tree. And so yeah, dancing just became like a comfortable industry for me. I knew how to find auditions and go to them, and I knew how to train, and yeah, that's how it all began.
And then you went into writing, I went into writing. So, tell us about that. When did that happen and why?
Yeah, my last official professional extended contract was in the winter of 2019. And I kind of like knew that was going to be like, okay, this is my last like show that I'm going to do. I was ready for change. I felt ready for change. I wanted to change a lifestyle. I was really getting exhausted by the hustle and the grind. I was kind of like losing steam and motivation for, I wasn't finding auditions fun anymore or like challenging or exhilarating. I wasn't really motivated to like sort of play into the system, like be seen at class and like, network with these people and that people. And I just knew I didn't really have it in me to like really take myself to the next level. And I was just kind of coasting. And I knew that was like, I don't want to be a dancer who's just sort of like lazy and a little bit tired, because it reads in your dancing as well. And I just knew I didn't want to become that on stage, and I didn't want to become that person in the cast. So I was ready for a change. I didn't really know what that was going to be. All I knew is that I had a degree in English literature, and I had always had a knack for, like, I was always good at writing. I was a fast reader, and I, really devoured magazines when I was young, and books. And so this was kind of the era of the internet when content writing was really in demand. And yeah, I mean, I think I just started teaching myself how to, like, I used websites that kind of like Upwork and things like that to try and get like little jobs here and there. And then I taught myself how to pitch magazines and pitch online publications, stories, and I started writing content for brands for their blogs. And that's kind of how it all started. And I just started teaching myself new things about that. I started teaching myself about SEO and yeah, like what made good writing on the web. And that was the beginning. It was not like an overnight thing that I figured out was like over a while. It took a while for me to figure it
Yeah.
out. It was not like
Yeah.
instantly like a flush income stream. But yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I did almost the exact same thing. My last contract was in 2018 and was doing the Upwork thing, the Fiverr thing, the just how do you get freelance work? And it is kind of very much pennies in the beginning and you're like,
Yeah.
what is this? Is this even lucrative? But yeah, I
Right.
somehow sustained myself for a few years doing
Hmm.
that. So, did you completely stop dancing kind of cold turkey, or was it a slow burn while you were starting your writing career?
I mean, I stopped dancing professionally. Like that was my last big gig, and I did stop dancing I think for a few years besides, and then COVID happened, and so I was just like dancing for myself and taking online classes and stuff. It just was a transition from thinking about dance as like this is work that I need to do, and like kind of going back to like this is a thing that I like to move my body. This is the way I like to exercise. And that also took like a little bit of a shift as well. I think I needed to kind of detox from the way that I had been thinking about dance because I had kind of fallen out of love with it, really. And I needed to take a break and come back to it and like remember what I liked about it. I needed to come back to it and remember to look in the mirror and not be so judgmental of like, oh, you need to like have a higher leg for the, this isn't going to be good enough for this audition or that, you're just so critical of yourself when you're trying to think of optimize yourself for jobs and work. And so I had to go back and start taking dance class and not look in the mirror and be like that thing's wrong and you missed that step and remember why I like to dance in the first place.
Totally. I always used to think about like at the end of it when I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this professionally anymore. I was like, I think it's more important to protect my relationship with dance. Sounds like the same kind of thing. But because you chose to leave, so a lot of people that I speak to these days, I ask them, why did they leave? It's like, well, COVID happened, and then
Yeah.
I got into this other thing, and then I'm here now, and it's all good. Whereas for us, we actually made the choice consciously. So I'm wondering, what were the challenges that you had in that transition, even though it was a choice?
Well, I want to say that it was a choice because, kind of like I said before, I felt myself getting burnt out. I felt myself not really finding the motivation to like push myself to a next level, push myself to be better. And I just didn't want to become that dancer. I didn't like the way that I was approaching my work ethic. And I just was like, well, I don't admire that. So I don't want to be that. And that's what inspired my change. I knew that I wanted to anticipate, I knew that the change was going to be inevitable. I wasn't like, I can do this forever. I knew it was coming.
Right.
And I was, you kind of like kick the can down the road as far as long as you can until you get to a point where you're like, well, it's also how comfortable with that anticipation you are with living with it. So like I knew that I needed to confront this at some point. It had been nagging me for years. I knew that I needed to like go back to school or something, or like I needed to start educating myself on other things or taking classes or whatever. It had been nagging at me, and I was just really tired of living with the fact that I hadn't faced this change yet, and I needed to just take like the first step. And I knew it was going to be uncomfortable and it was going to be icky feeling for a, a while, but the anxiety of not confronting it was too much to for me to like continue living with, and I didn't want to be that person who just like kind of was caught off guard and all of a sudden it's like I don't have dance and I also don't have anything else in my life either. I wanted to anticipate the change instead of waiting till the very last moment, possible moment to be like, okay, now it's time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know why we do that to ourselves. So many dancers do that, and it's so unnecessary. Yeah, I mean, that's what Pivot's all about, where it's like, no, it's okay. Like, think about it, it's gonna happen. Like it happens to all of us, happens to the best of us.
And it's also a process, and it's not something that's
Yeah.
like, okay, dance career is over and now this other next chapter begins. It's like way more of an overlap of things happening simultaneously, slowly. And yeah, I think it's just kind of good to start that journey. It doesn't mean that you're like closing the door right away on dance. And I think that's like what dancers probably struggle with is like, oh, because I'm taking classes in this or looking into that means that I'm ending my career in dance. And I just think it's an overlap for sure.
And some people get injured, and that's what pushes them to change. But again, that could happen at any moment to anyone.
Yeah.
And I think the world is so different now to even the previous generation in general. Like, I don't even know if one career even exists in any field, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
which is something kind of weird to grapple with now. Now that I'm in a new career, you're in a new career, it's like you still always have to be thinking like, oh, is this going away? Or
Yes,
I don't know,
no,
not to
that's so
be too.
true. Yeah, yeah, you have to always be learning. I mean, I think I did have that sort of black and white sort of thinking when I first started, of what I thought a career change was going to be. I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to have this next new career and it's going to be only this. And it's like, and I'm going to approach it like dance, where I learn and train and I become an expert in that thing. But like you're never really an expert, and like it's also good to like continue teaching yourself lots of new things instead of becoming so kind of like blinders on focused on one thing. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a mindset shift for dancers because we train so hard and we focus so solely on this one thing and we become really good at it. And then this transition is the inevitable of like being bad at something, because you're going to try something new for the first time and you're not going to be good at it right away. And I think that's like a really weird, uncomfortable feeling for dancers, because for so long we've kind of mastered our craft to a certain extent, and we can make quick changes and we can tweak, and we are really comfortable in our expertise. And yeah, it's really terrifying to be bad at something. And you're probably going to have to try a lot of things and be bad at a lot of things for a little bit before it gets better. And I think that's probably like a big hill to overcome when you're pivoting. Yeah.
100%. I was thinking about this the other day, where talking about entrepreneurship and just like the modern world and being flexible and having to experiment and like fail fast.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that people who are really good at school probably, it's like the opposite skill set is like experimenting and
Mm-hmm.
failing and being a beginner over and over. And I was like, oh, I was good at school. You were probably really good at school. Most dancers are good at school because we're just good at taking direction.
Well, we're
And it's
like
like,
perfectionists,
yes,
we know how to find a problem and spot it, and like, yeah, it's all about like, yeah, perfecting things, but you can't really like perfect something that you don't know anything about yet. Like it's just going to be a stumble for a while.
yeah,
And I think that's why a lot of dancers go into fitness, and that's okay. Like fitness is a great like job and industry, but I think there's a fear for dancers to go into something completely different from dance, because again, they just feel like, oh, it needs to be like adjacent some way because I need to, use my expertise. I don't want all that to go to waste. And I just think that if you love fitness and you love like working with the body, like do it. Go, that's a great path for you. But don't be afraid of like making a 360 and trying something really different, because one thing that was really surprising to me when I went into like I started working a corporate marketing job, I was so surprised and impressed by like all of these hidden characteristics and talents and like qualities I had in myself that were a result of dancing that I hadn't really noticed until you're sort of side by side with like very different colleagues from your fellow dancers, and then you're all of a sudden like, oh wow, like I'm really good at like asking a ton of questions. I'm really good at like sticking with something until I really figure it out. I don't know, there's just like so many things that dance kind of wired into my brain that have made me a very valuable team member no matter where I work. And
Yeah,
that's another hill to overcome too, is just the mental block and the imposter syndrome. Like I think dancers are so ahead of the game when it comes to like stepping into a team environment or a new thing because of all of these like characteristics we have, but they'll probably feel like, oh, I'm so behind, and they might even be made to feel that way by other people, like, oh, you spent your first 10 years dancing, like, what do you know about this? But like, you're not behind, you're
totally.
really
Totally.
well suited to like excel at something. You just have to like really believe in yourself and like stick with it.
100%. And I think just knowing what excellence feels like is
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I find in my corporate job, where it's like a lot of people, even if they, right after college or whatever, went into a corporate role, they potentially have never actually pursued excellence or achieved excellence in the way that dancers have if you've made it to the professional level. And I think that just knowing that that exists and that you can achieve that, you can
Mm-hmm.
unlock that as well. As much as you could be like, oh, I'm an imposter, oh, I don't like this feeling. You can also tap into, oh, I know what it feels like to master something also, which a lot of people don't. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you made so many good points where you just have to back yourself and know that you bring so much to the table, even if you just spent your first 10 years dancing. So, what do you do now? What are you up to now? What's a day to day? I know you travel a lot, so there's probably not a day to day really, but
Yeah, so I mean, after dance, I worked for a few years on with a brand, strategizing their content, their like written content, and then I worked for a small boutique magazine as their senior editor. All the while also juggling freelance writing, mostly for like magazines and online publications. And it was only about a year and change ago that I went full-time freelance. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And my focus, my kind of area of expertise is travel and like lifestyle stories and things like that. So I do travel a lot. We could do a whole other podcast or a whole other episode about the world of travel writing and press trips and all that sort of thing. But the glamorous side of things is oftentimes I get free travel to go experience certain things. But the cool part of that is finding stories and about cool people or cool places, and getting to put that together into kind of a powerful story, and finding a good place for that, a good audience. So yeah, that's mostly what I do. Some of my income is also like on the brand side, so I get hired to write content for tourism boards and sometimes hotels, sometimes cruise lines, sometimes I do copywriting. Copywriting is more on the ads and sales side, so you're like writing slogans and you're writing like emails about selling us something. So there's a lot of different kinds of writing you can do: long form, short form copy, like, so that's all stuff that I just figured out over time. So you don't go into it knowing that, but yeah, overall my day to day is pretty flexible, and just like, I mean, just like dance, honestly, my as a freelance dancer, I had a really flexible life that revolved around going to auditions and going to class, and that provided me with structure. But very similarly, work doesn't land in my lap, just like casting directors didn't call me up on the phone and give me work. You had to show up at
what?
the audition or the class, and it's the same. It's a different kind of hustle and grind, but it's very, very similar, adjacent. I've got to pitch, I've got to write emails, I've got to like reach out and find the work for myself. And I attribute all of that attitude and persistence to the same kind of hustle and grind I had to do for 10 years as a dancer. And the resilience, oh my gosh, the resilience to rejection. Holy moly. Like, oh wow. Thank you,
Yeah.
dance, for all the rejections, for all of the auditions that I didn't get, because you definitely get that as a writer. You have to not take it personally. It's not about you. So you just got to keep going.
Totally. So what are the future plans? Any changes in the future or just still doing what you're doing?
I mean, I love what I'm doing right now. I like the flexibility I've built into my life. I like the power and ownership I have over the work that I do. But I am always looking to challenge myself. I've become pretty comfortable writing articles and, being more in the editorial world of writing. But I would love to write a book. I would love to write a screenplay. So I'm teaching myself about those kinds of writing, that style, how you would go about pitching a book idea, how you would go about pitching a screenplay. And yeah, I mean, I think that stuff all still excites me, and that's why I'm going to keep doing this. Kind of like how I got to a point with dance where I didn't feel like excited by anything. So I know that I should stick with this until I'm like really bored or really burnt out. But for now, and this is like something I always loved about writing, is it's just you could write about anything, and it lets you be really curious about the world, and that's something that I really, I didn't want to like niche down. Everyone's like niche down, figure out like one thing and get really good at it, and it's like, well, I'm really curious about a lot of things, and writing gets you exposed to a lot of different people and a lot of different places and topics, and I'm always learning. And I think maybe I'll come across something that might pique my interest and I might veer in a new direction one day. But this, I'm sure it'll be as a result of like the writing work I've done has introduced me to something new that I want to do. So I'm going to stick with it for a little while longer. Yeah.
Amazing. Love that. Yeah, I think writing is such a good, like you said, it's a way to be curious about the world. And I think it's more that, right? It's not so much the writing, it's the world and experiencing the world. And that's
Hmm.
such a nice
Yeah.
way to exist. Sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
mean,
love
when I
it.
was dancing, I was traveling a lot as a dancer on contracts, and it was always like the people I met on the contracts and the different places I was going that were really enriching and really exciting. And so when I went to transition to something else, I had to like really boil down what it was I wanted to take from dance, both the experiences that I had as a dancer, but also like what did I love, really love about dancing, like what made me feel purposeful. And a lot of that was rooted in storytelling. And I do feel like I do feel like a slight connection to the fact that like as a dancer you suspend disbelief and you move people to feel things, joy or what have you, and you capture their attention for a moment in time, and a good story can do that as well. And I kind of like how it feels like I'm still moving forward with the same thing that I loved about being on stage, but just doing something, working in a different medium that, yeah, it still feels like a form of expression. And yeah,
Yeah, it's pulling the pieces of dance that you actually connected with,
yeah,
because I don't think we're very reflective, or at least I wasn't very reflective about why am I making these decisions along the way? Is it because I like performing or I like travel
mhm,
or I like the people? And it's different for everyone. And I think that
yeah,
you can pull those pieces because there's something there, obviously,
yeah,
and you pull those and put it into what you're going to do next. So
yeah.
makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you really have to like sit with yourself for a while and figure out like what drove me to do this, like what's really the motivation behind this, and help it feel. It doesn't have to necessarily like tie into your next thing, but it could maybe just like shine a light toward a path where you should just take a first step. And I think that's the big thing that dancers can get stuck on is like the overthinking of like, oh, I need to make a big career change. I need to go back to school for this thing and commit to 4 years of my life to a whole big change. And it's like, take a small step and like start researching or start talking to somebody who already does it and see if it's like still sparking interest.
It's definitely a good place to start. Well, thanks so much for chatting with me.
Yeah, this was like satisfying, you know? Yeah.
Cathartic.
Yes, cathartic. That's a better word. It was like cathartic. I feel like a little bit like a therapy sesh,
Yes, always.
but
For me
yeah,
too. Whenever I'm talking to people, I'm like, yep, can relate, yep, can relate, yep, can
yeah.
relate.
Well, that's why
So
what
thank
is
you.
really your community is so important because it's really hard to make these changes all by yourself, and you can have a lot of days where you feel super lonely and super alone, and definitely like yeah, reach out. There are all the other dancers are going through this. Every dancer has to at some point.
Totally. We've all got to. It's gonna happen and we're all feeling the same thing, so might as well talk about it.
Yeah. If anyone
You
wants
can
to get into to writing, reach out. Travel writing, and all the secrets. I'm just kidding. I don't have the secrets. I'm still figuring it out, and that's what you should know. Is that like we're all still figuring it out. There's not like an end point where you're like, okay, and now I'm here. Now I've
yeah,
arrived.
yeah.
It's just you
There's
gotta
no
take
secret
it apart.
sauce that, you just have to do it. You just have to start, go through it. And there's people along the way where it's like, this is weird, right? It's like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.